My name is Viktor Sorokin. Vitya. I'm 104 years old. They handed me a rifle with no bullets and sent me across the Volga into a city that was already on fire. 97 out of every 100 men in my wave never came home. I did. I've had 83 years to ask why, and I still don't have an answer. They gave me a rifle with no bullets and told me to find some on the way. I was 20 years old. They ferried us across the Volga River at night because crossing during the day meant dying. The Germans could see the boats. When we reached the other side, the city was on fire. The entire sky was orange. And an officer pointed toward the flames and said, "Go forward. Pick up a weapon from the dead. Do not come back." I didn't know it then, but I was walking into the worst battle in human history. 2 million casualties. Not thousands. Million. And the strangest part? I survived. 97% of the soldiers who entered Stalingrad in my wave did not survive. I did. And I've spent 83 years trying to understand why.
Vitya, I'm honored you're here with us today, and I can't imagine how heavy these memories still are. So take me there. What was Stalingrad like?
Hell. But not the hell you imagine. Not fire and screaming. Sometimes, yes. But mostly it was quiet and close. Like being in a nightmare where everything moves slowly. People think of battles as armies charging at each other across open fields. Stalingrad was nothing like that. It was a city. An ordinary city with apartment buildings and factories and schools. And we fought for it, room by room, floor by floor. Sometimes wall by wall. You could kill a German on one side of a wall, and his friend would be sitting on the other side, and neither of you knew until someone kicked through. I arrived in September 1942. The Volga crossing, that's the first thing. They loaded us onto barges at night. The river was about a mile wide. The Germans held the western bank, and they had spotlights and artillery. If they caught a barge in the light, it was over. I saw the barge next to ours take a direct hit. One moment it was there, full of men, maybe 60 of them, and then a flash and it was gone. Just debris in the water. 60 men, 60 families, 60 lifetimes. Gone in 1 second. And our barge kept going, because stopping meant dying too. We landed on the bank and climbed up, and immediately we were in it. The Germans were sometimes 200 meters away, sometimes 50, sometimes on the other side of the room. The front line in Stalingrad wasn't a line, it was a maze. You could hold the ground floor of a building, and the Germans held the second floor, and another Russian unit held the third floor, and everyone was trying to kill everyone else through ceilings and floors. I was assigned to a unit defending a grain elevator. a giant concrete building near the river. We held it for weeks. There were maybe 40 of us. The Germans attacked every day, sometimes twice. They'd send tanks first, then infantry. We had no anti-tank weapons at the beginning. We had rifles and grenades and our hands. A man named Sergei, I never learned his last name. He jumped onto a German tank with a bottle of gasoline stuffed with a rag, a Molotov cocktail. He lit it and shoved it into the air intake on the engine deck. The tank caught fire. Sergei was shot while he was still on the tank. He rolled off and died in the street. He was maybe 22. That was Tuesday. We didn't mark the days of the week. But I remember it was a Tuesday because someone said it was, and the absurdity of that stuck with me. Tuesday. A day for work, for routine. And Sergei was burning alive on a tank. The snipers were the worst. You couldn't move during daylight. Any window, any gap in a wall, any doorway, a sniper might be watching. We moved through buildings by breaking through walls from the inside. We'd use pickaxes and sledgehammers to knock holes in the walls between apartments and move through the building without ever going outside. The Germans did the same thing. Sometimes you'd break through a wall and find yourself looking at a German soldier who'd been breaking through from the other side. Then it was whoever reacted first. I was fast. That's not a boast. It's a sickness. Being fast at killing another human being is not something to be proud of. It's something that kept me alive and destroyed me at the same time. I killed. I don't know how many. I stopped counting after a while because counting made them real, and making them real made it impossible to keep going. So I stopped. They became shapes, movements, targets, not people. You cannot fight in Stalingrad and think of the enemy as people. The moment you do, you hesitate, and hesitation is death. But at night, in the basement where we slept, if you could call it sleep, they became people again. In the dark, with the shelling outside, they came back as faces, young faces, German boys who were probably just as scared and just as hungry and just as far from home as I was. The cold came in November. Stalingrad cold is not like other cold. It's a living thing. It gets inside you and it lives there. -30. -35. Your fingers don't work. Your weapon freezes. We urinated on our rifle bolts to keep them from seizing. The warmth would melt the ice for a few minutes. That's what war is. Not glory, not honor. A 20-year-old boy urinating on his rifle at 4 in the morning so he can kill someone at 5. The order was clear. Not one step back. Order 227. Stalin signed it personally. It meant exactly what it said. If you retreated, they shot you. Not the Germans. our own people. The NKVD, the secret police, had blocking detachments behind our lines. Their job was to shoot any Soviet soldier who moved backward. I saw it happen. A boy, I say boy, he was my age, but he looked 15. He ran from a German attack. He ran about 20 meters toward the river. An NKVD officer shot him in the back. Then the officer turned to the rest of us and said nothing. He didn't need to say anything. We were trapped between the Germans in front and our own government behind. And somehow, we held.
What you're describing, that image of being trapped between the Germans in front and your own government behind, that's not just war. That's being abandoned by everything that was supposed to protect you and still holding on. This is unimaginable, but the most confusing question is, how did you survive after the war?
Surviving the war was the easy part. You just had to not die. Surviving after, that was harder. I came home in 1945. I had a medal and a limp and a head full of dead men. I married. I worked in a factory. I had children. I did what Soviet citizens did. I was useful. I contributed. I didn't complain. But every night I was back in Stalingrad. Every single night for decades. I'd wake up and my wife, Galina, would be holding my arms because I'd been swinging at something in my sleep. She never asked what I was dreaming about. In Russia, we didn't talk about such things. Men came home from the war, and they went to work, and they drank, and they died earlier than they should have, and nobody asked why. I drank, I'll say it plainly. I drank for 30 years. Not because I was weak, but because vodka was the only thing that made the faces stop. 2 glasses, and the German boy behind the wall went away. 3 glasses, and Sergei on the tank went away. By the 4th glass, I could almost sleep. My son, Alexei, grew up with a father who was either silent or drunk. Those were his 2 options. Silent Viktor or drunk Viktor. There was no third version. Galina left me in 1971. I don't blame her. She married a ghost and spent 26 years trying to make it solid. You can't. You can't turn a ghost into a man by loving it hard enough. I know she tried. I know she stayed far longer than most would. But at some point, even love runs out of patience when the other person won't let you in. I stopped drinking in 1983, not through strength, through weakness. My body simply couldn't do it anymore. My liver was failing. A doctor told me I'd be dead in a year if I continued. So I stopped. And when I stopped, Stalingrad came back with full force. Every night, every detail, every face. 30 years of drinking had kept them at arm's length. Sobriety brought them back into the room. I had to learn to live with them, not overcome them. You don't overcome Stalingrad. You make space for it. You sit with it in the morning and you acknowledge it, and then you try to have a day. Some days you succeed. Some days you don't. I'm 104 years old. I'm the last one. Everyone from my unit is gone. Every single one. Sergei, Andrei, Yuri, Misha, Kolya, all gone. I'm the last person alive who was in that grain elevator. And I want to tell you something that none of the history books say. We didn't fight for Stalin. We didn't fight for communism. We didn't fight for the Soviet Union. We fought for the man standing next to us. That's it. When everything is stripped away, the politics, the ideology, the orders, you fight for the person beside you because he's fighting for you, and if you stop, he dies. That's the only truth I learned in Stalingrad. The only thing worth dying for is another person. Not a flag, not an idea, not a leader, a person. And here's what haunts me at 104. I was willing to die for the men in my unit. I would have given my life for any one of them without thinking. But when I came home, I couldn't sit at a kitchen table and be present for my wife. I could charge a German machine gun position, but I couldn't tell my son I loved him. War broke something in me that peace couldn't fix. The part of me that could be soft, the part that could be open. It died in Stalingrad with Sergei and all the others. And I spent the rest of my life wearing its shape without being it. You don't need a war to do this to yourself. You're doing it right now. Building walls. Going silent, choosing distance because closeness is terrifying. I know because I see it in my grandchildren. They're not in a battle, but they're in their own kind of siege, surrounded by noise and screens and fear, and too proud or too scared to break through the wall to the person on the other side. Break through the wall. Don't wait until you're 104, and everyone you loved is gone, and the only people who hear your stories are strangers on a screen. Break through the wall while there's still someone on the other side. Not one step back. That was Stalin's order. Here's mine. Not one word unsaid. Not one person unloved. Not one day wasted pretending you're fine when you're not. That's my order. And unlike Stalin's, this one might actually save you.